Hi there, and welcome to the new video here on my channel on dating and Asperger's syndrome. So I figured I make a video on romantic gestures, when to say I love you, etc. because that's a really tricky field and difficult even for neurotypicals. And it's so awkward, like if you say I love you way too early, or if you say it too late or too often. So in the context of this video, what are romantic gestures? And I wrote them down so I don't miss any, that bouquet of roses or cut flowers, texting pictures of yourself in bed, nicknames, now that's a real minefield, what you call her, picking out songs to send to her or making a playlist. Things like compliments, and then planning those bigger dates where you spend a lot of time, effort, money to do something really special for her. So you look at this list and you probably go, anybody would love to receive any of these things, and they make you feel really good, right? So there can never be anything wrong with doing a gesture like that. And the most important thing to understand is yes, it can be the completely wrong thing, and it can completely backfire to do the wrong big gesture at the wrong time. And I thought of ways how to explain why that is, and what came to mind was the Maslow hierarchy of needs as a metaphor. You probably heard about it, that a person has different needs, and it's like a hierarchy. So first we want food, water, warmth, rest. And then once that is fulfilled, we want security and safety. And once that is fulfilled, we look for intimate relationships, we want friends, we don't want to be lonely. And once that level is fulfilled, we look to esteem needs, prestige, feeling of accomplishment, and then the last step is self-actualization. And I thought that there's actually a hierarchy of needs like that in a love relationship as well. And the very basic level is to feel loved, cared for, to feel like your partner loves to spend time with you, and things like that. And then other needs, like getting that big bouquet of flowers at work so everybody else sees that you have a loving boyfriend, that comes later, and some women don't even care for it. But this basic level is super, super important. And of course that's often where Aspi guys have problems, and where the relationship can be really tricky to navigate. And I always give that example of that your Aspi boyfriend can tell by slight differences in engine noise that something's wrong with your car, but he can't tell by your face that you need a hug. So sometimes you go without a hug, you go, he goes off, follows a special interest on the day when you really, really need him to be there. And so the tricky thing about that is you can't make up for that basic need with the higher need. Just like with Maslow's hierarchy of need, if you feel cold and hungry and thirsty, you don't care if somebody gives you a big trophy and says, oh, you're the smartest and you're the most wonderful and you have all these accomplishments. No, you want food, water, warmth, sleep. So the basic needs have to be fulfilled before the higher needs even kick in. And it can even rub you completely the wrong way if somebody goes and fulfills like a potential need up there, and then completely ignores your basic needs. And that can happen. Then that as a woman you feel like, yeah, you picked up this bouquet of roses at the grocery store for $40, but why couldn't you just sit with me and watch my show yesterday and talk about my day or your day, things like that. So from that perspective, I think I'm going to go on a limb now here and say if you're an SB in a relationship with a neurotypical woman, avoid those big romantic gestures, period. Except if she explicitly said she wants something. Like, let's say if she tells you, oh, this friend of ours sent his girlfriend this big bouquet of flowers, look how lovely, how beautiful, then you know, okay, sometime in the near future you should also send her flowers to work. Or if she says, our friends went on this romantic beach house getaway or whatever, then maybe it's time to think if you could maybe plan a Saturday, Sunday at the beach sometimes. But apart from that, except for the very basics, and there are some things like, no matter what a woman says, you have to recognize her birthday, you have to recognize a wedding anniversary or any kind of other anniversary that she mentioned. If she says, just I don't care much about my birthday, just get me something if you like to, but I'll be okay. I like to ignore birthdays. I've had too many. No, people from 1 year old are used to that the people they love celebrate their birthdays, and so the very, very basic things like picking a birthday present and making her feel special on birthdays, on Christmas. That should go without saying. You gotta do that. But apart from that, when it comes to romancing her, I would say a woman who's dating a guy with Asperger's syndrome is probably not somebody who constantly needs attention and romanced and these grand gestures all the time. We date a guy who's like pretty no nonsense, and we appreciate him for his directness and honesty and straightforwardness. So even though you might like Google, okay, things to do for my girlfriend, and there might be articles about how, do this thing, do a scavenger hunt where you set up things around the city and she can follow the clues and it'll be so romantic. Not maybe in an ASB relationship, because again, there's a big chance that then she might feel, hey, wait a second, you had all this time to set up the scavenger hunt, but you weren't there just to watch this stand-up comedy special with me where I was like laughing and would have really liked to have somebody to laugh with me instead of you sitting there playing video games, or just little things like that. So again, tip number 1, big romantic gestures. Don't do it unless she explicitly mentioned something that she really loved, that happened in other relationships, or that she would like you to do, and then you just do it. Apart from that, I think the safest thing is to try to focus on her basic needs, the base of the pyramid or the hierarchy, and try to fulfill those needs where you do something special nicely every day. Like even it's like if you know she's really likes it to get the coffee right when she wakes up, it's a really nice thing to go and make the coffee for her and have it waiting when she comes into the kitchen. And women love that stuff. If you do that stuff, most women, I would say, just don't care about getting the cut flowers. And in fact, even things like cut flowers, like let's say she's into gardening or bonsai or succulents, and then so she loves thriving plants and caring for plants. So when you bring those cut flowers that die after a few days, that can actually be kind of sad. And personally, I'm not a super fan of cut flowers, because you always start wondering, okay, is it time to throw those away when they start wilting? So and definitely don't do the single rose. Like if somebody goes around at the restaurant you're eating, one of those vendors selling single roses and stuff like that, no, I would just, you can ignore it, because those roses are typically not the nicest roses in the first place. They're overpriced. And again, you're an ASB dating a girl who's neurotypical, and she doesn't need that. She loves you. She probably knows you love her. Without that, it's just nice to then focus more on these everyday gestures, not the cliche stuff that's roses and stuff like that. Okay, and again, just follow her lead, like with the other tips or gestures, like let's say, if she sends you a sexy picture, in wearing something lacy or whatever, lying in bed, then you can send her a picture of yourself in bed. But I've had it where out of the blue the guy sent me just lying in bed shirtless and taking that selfie. Oh, good morning, honey. And if you've never sent him something like that, and then you get that at work or whatever, it's like, I find it odd. And I only like to really exchange sexy pictures and stuff if the relationship is rock solid and if it's like been going on for many, many months, because you don't want sexy pictures of like that floating around with with people you maybe tried to date 3-4 months and it didn't work out or whatever. So follow her lead, what she does. And okay, some of the other things like nicknames. God, that's such a minefield. I would almost say, again, play it safe. Just call her by her first name. And let's say you find spontaneously like a really cute little nickname that's specific to what she does or what she's like, and you call her that and she laughs. That doesn't mean necessarily that she wants to be called that from now till the end of time. So if she laughs and seems to like it, maybe call her that again a little, the next day or whatever, and then you can ask right away, you like when I call you this? Can I call you this more often? And then if she says, oh, I love it, okay, you have the nickname for her. But don't start calling her something, just because you think it's a good idea. And I actually had a guy who, I think he read that women like compliments and women like nicknames and being called nice things on a daily basis. So he came up with where he just would call me, let's say if my name was Jeannie, he would call me Wonderful Jeannie all the time. Good morning, Wonderful Jeannie. Good night, Wonderful Jeannie. Oh, how are you doing, Wonderful Jeannie? And maybe I'm just picky with nicknames and stuff like that, but it just felt so pat and a little bit like. And again, it's because of that hierarchy of needs. If you never get a spontaneous, specific comment of how your boyfriend really loves what you do right then, or you serve food and this tastes really good, or oh, I love how you look in this dress. If you don't give these spontaneous situation compliments, then just to call your girlfriend Wonderful Jeannie all the time is just not a good idea, because it just reminds her how you never give specific compliments. You just can come up with this phrase and then you just text it and tell it to her all the time. And I know that sounds picky, everybody should be just enchanted to be called that, but it's just and of course I dropped some hints of saying like, I really don't feel wonderful today or every day, and of course he didn't get the hint, and that's a bad thing too about romantic gestures, stuff like that. Most typical women would rather cut their tongue off or whatever than to say, I don't like this cute romantic gesture you came up with, or I don't like this cute name that you call me all the time, or I don't like this picture that you just sent me, it's a bit too much at 8 o'clock at 8 a.m. on Monday morning. So then, especially for an Aspie, he might be continuing to do something that just rubs her a bit the wrong way. And nicknames, I think it's just not necessary. Just don't do it. And one guy, actually, he came up with the cringiest name, and I just still cringe thinking back. And I wonder even how that happened, because he was super polite and respectful and very attentive in other ways, but just like after 2 or 3 dates, he started calling me And I think he got that name that probably, I mean, he worked in a manufacturing facility, so I think he had that first date with me, and maybe he went back and then told his coworkers, yeah, had this date with this woman from Germany, and maybe they said, oh, so you met a hot Euro babe, oh nice. And then he started calling me Euro babe. And I hated it so much, but I laughed the first time he called me that, and then the second I was like, yeah, okay, you can stop now. But of course, Aspie guys can't read facial expressions, so he just kept calling me that. And and again, with nicknames, romantic gestures, often there's so much subtext, and something that you get called all the time that is more personal than anything else. And Euro babe in particular, like Euro, do I want to be loved because I'm from Europe? No, I mean, maybe some people think that's a neat thing about me, but I hope, somebody would love other things about me more, or not just from that cachet of dating somebody from Europe. And this whole from Europe is silly anyway. I mean, I'm from Germany, Europe is extremely diverse, so that's kind of stupid in the first place. And then babe, which is like, don't call a woman babe, that has like this connotation of, I don't know, just babe in a swimsuit. It's like empty-headed. It's, you're a total babe. Just what jocks say. It's just, I don't think most women like the connotation of babe. If you want to use a standard name, something like sweetie or sweetheart is much safer. Now, of course, if she absolutely loves, she spends a lot of time on her appearance, and you sometimes call her, oh, you're a total babe, she might love it. Depends from woman to woman. I did not like Euro babe. It had nothing warm, emotional, personal about it. And then one day I googled it, and then I loved it. Then I liked it even less. Then I just absolutely hated the name, and I actually confronted him about it, and I said, well, you know what? The other day I googled Euro babe, and I remember him just like, he just chuckled to himself, and I thought, yeah, again, that's an Aspie thing. At that point, he probably Aspies have a hard time putting themselves in other people's shoes, and even with something that would seem so obvious, that if you call your girlfriend a name that seems to be common on porn sites, yeah, this is not a good thing to do. And maybe at that point he could have realized when I confronted him about it, oh, you know what, I'm sorry, that name's maybe not so appropriate, let me find something different, or let me call you by your real name instead. So long story short, nicknames, big pitfall, I would avoid it. Pick out a song, again, so difficult even for neurotypicals, because songs have so much subtext and emotional connotation, and lyrics are never straightforward. Every line has subtext. And then for neurotypicals, especially with songs, we get this rush of associations and feelings related to the music and the lyrics. And of course, people with Asperger's do as well. And that's a problem. If you send a song to somebody else to express your love, then unless it's a really, really good match, and you don't know what really the song might mean to the other person, it can be really awkward. Like even little things, like if you're a guy and you find this perfect love song that a woman sings to a guy, some people might find that really odd if you send that to your girl and then she listens to the song where a girl adores her boyfriend, and then she goes like, well, that doesn't speak to me, that's like how I should adore him, or what's the deal with that? And then a lot of songs, they might be about love, but they might be subtext of love that was lost, love where the other person died, love that doesn't really exist. Maybe there might be just some 2 lines of lyrics at the end of the song that turn everything on its head. So you might even start listening to a song and say, yeah, this is perfect to send to her, and then the way the song wraps up is like, oh, she had all this great stuff about her, but but I had to say goodbye. So really, really tough to find a good song. Then there are music genres, what kind of genres do you like? Which genres does she like? And then, like, let's say if you send her a romantic country love song, if she knows you're not into country music, she knows you're not listening to that song, or that the song is not very meaningful to you, most likely. And then she goes like, well, he probably just Googled love songs, and then he just picked this, and then maybe she doesn't really like country music. I had this one guy who sent me just the corniest cover of a song from the 70s. Now, the original song I liked. Now, that cover was just atrocious. I could hardly listen to it. And that is so, it's so cringy, because you kind of feel you have to listen to this, and then you listen to the song and you go like, that's what his love feels like. And as neurotypical women, we don't get many expressions of love necessarily, deep expressions of love from our aspie boyfriend or whatever. So when he sends a song, and the song is so emotional and so intense, and the artist puts so much into it. So if we get that can overpower everything else. So really tricky thing. And I would say, unless you're super lucky and like on your first or second date, or when you first kissed, maybe some song was playing, and if at that moment she said, oh, I love this song, okay, then you have your song, the song of your relationship. And then if you send her later that song and say, oh, I just listened to the song and it reminded me of our first kiss or first date, perfect, But, unless she expressed she loved the song, unless the song already has context for you both, don't try desperately to find a good song to send to her simply because you read this is a nice romantic gesture to do for her, because there's a million times or a million ways how that can go wrong, and maybe not so many ways how that can go right. Because if she already said she loves the song, then when you send her the song, like if it's her favorite song and then you send it to her, that feels really odd too, because nowadays it's all digital bits and bytes, but she already has the song and you're sending it to her. It feels like not such a thoughtful gesture. All right, next, those dates or romantic things you might plan for her, and that's good. However, you have to make sure again that if you put a lot of effort and time and money into something, again, hierarchy of love needs, you better make sure that everything's rock solid there on the bottom, because if she feels sometimes not really loved, and if there were conflicts where she was crying and saying you don't understand me and we don't do many things together, and I feel sometimes you don't even care about me, then if you do this big, buy these flights or some expensive tickets to some expensive concert, it can feel like, this cliche of the husband who cheated and then comes home with a jewelry or big bouquet of flowers or whatever, because he has a bad conscience. It has a completely bad connotation. Don't do it. Again, you can't make up for what she's missing on the bottom level of needs with these grand romantic gestures. Just like in Maslow's hierarchy of need, you can't make up for a person going hungry and thirsty by handing them a trophy or telling how intelligent they are or whatever.